Super Talk Jesus pulling off miracles over there. That's you, Belle, by the way. New nickname.
Nice.
You're welcome. Matt Murphy Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is 12:38. Obviously, a huge topic of conversation. The question being whether or not the team that Kamala Harris, Barack Obama, put together to find her a vice president, Eric Holder was in charge of that, Barack Obama, whether or not they knew about this disastrous revelation that apparently Tim Walz has for years been misrepresenting his military service. Now, I've never served the United States military, and I am hesitant to call things stolen valor, particularly when I know how many of you in the listening audience have served in the United States military and how much I appreciate that and how much I defer to you. With all of that in mind, we thought it best to bring in a United States military veteran. He also happens to be a good friend. He serves his country in the state of Alabama on WVNN every morning until 9 a.m. From 10 until 11, he serves in Montgomery, Birmingham, and Huntsville on a trifecta of radio stations all across the state. He makes the horrific mistake of inviting me on once a week, but he has also served his country in the United States military itself. His name is Dale Jackson, and he joins the Matt Murphy Show today. Hello, Dale. How are you?
I am excellent. Oh, that's a military thing.
Oh, see, I didn't know because I haven't served. There you go. I mean, but you. For years, I've listened to you on the air, and you have such a wonderful approach to your service because you've often said, and I think I'm getting this right. I don't want to get in front of you, that the military gave you so much more than you gave the military, and I've always appreciated the sentiment there.
Yeah, I ripped you guys off. I mean, no question about it. I mean, my military service did so much for me, and I did so little for the country. I got really good at Mario Kart. I did. Played a lot of that when I was out in the field, in a communications shelter, setting up tactical networks and things like that. But when I got out, the country took great care of me. GI Bill, Army College Fund put me through the University of Florida. Got a great job with it. I mean, they treated me great. It's the best decision I ever made. Put your kids in the military in some way, shape, or form. It's good for them. It's good for you. It's good for the country.
So talk to me about your perspective on the selection of Tim Walz. I mean, obviously, we were not going to like this guy from a political perspective. You just look at a little of his background from Minnesota, and that's pretty obvious. But they picked him in part because he could check that box of military service. He was in for multiple decades in the Minnesota National Guard, but it doesn't seem like they did any deep dive into the vetting, considering some of the language that he has used post-service. Just give me your view from 50,000 feet on all of this.
I think they thought they could just get away with it. I mean, I believe they thought they could get through this because the media is going to help them. It's just like when they're calling him coach. He was an assistant coach on a high school team. Nobody was calling that guy coach. You called Tom Osborne coach. You called Tommy Tuberville coach. You never called the assistant high school coach, who's also an English teacher, the head of the Gay Straight Alliance, who's responsible for tampons in the boys' room. Nobody called that guy coach. But now we're pretending all these things. They just figured the media would carry their water, which the media is generally doing. I mean, ABC News put out a report that said that J.D. Vance, who didn't serve in combat, just in Iraq in a war zone, so he never actually saw combat, is now complaining about a Walz record when he has 24 years. They thought they could get through this, and I was kind of hesitant about the stolen valor thing like you were. I didn't want to go out and say that because I didn't know the whole story, and it's kind of tricky sometimes how people talk about their military service. And this guy, after all this has come out, it is clear to me that maybe he's not legally guilty of stolen valor, but he definitely fits the definition that everyone thinks of when it says stolen valor, inflating his military service, lying about being in combat, and using it to make him an authority on certain things when he is not. And the abandonment of his unit when they were getting ready to go to Iraq, that was an unforgivable thing. Look, all you got to do is listen. I know I'm laying out a lot of stuff here, but all you got to do is listen to the guy who took over for him, who came from the same unit. Because keep in mind, this is a National Guard unit, so these guys are all coming from the same state. This guy who took over for him said he abandoned us and called him a traitor. Now, the word traitor is incredibly loaded, and I don't think he means it in the traditional sense where he should be executed and stuff like this. But what he's saying is he betrayed his soldiers. And that's how a lot of them feel about it. And look, the media and Kamala Harris and everyone else can tell them that they shouldn't feel that way if they want. Those guys went into a war zone. 3 guys died. They felt betrayed.
So there seem to be 2 basic aspects of this conversation. One, how he left, and the other is how he spoke about his service after leaving. I want to play a clip. All right, hold on. I've got to do one little thing here. I want to play a clip of what he said post leaving. This is a good example. And, you know, after 3 days, the bloggers in pajamas in their basements have dug up multiple examples of him doing this after his military service. So this is just a one-off, but this is an example of what we're talking about when we discuss Tim Walz and how he talked about his military service after he left the National Guard.
Hope woke up like many of you did 5 weeks ago and said, Dad, you're the only person I know who's in elected office. You need to stop what's happening with this. I'll take my kick in the butt for the NRA. I spent 25 years in the Army, and I hunt. And I gave the money back, and I'll tell you what I have been doing. I've been voting for common sense legislation that protects the Second Amendment, but we can do background checks. We can do CDC research. We can make sure we don't have reciprocal carry among states, and we can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place where those weapons...
Those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place where those weapons are at. So he uses the idea that he was on the battlefield as a bludgeon against the Second Amendment arguments that so many conservatives make. And this is a place where military veterans like yourself, Dale, would say this is way, way beyond where he can go with his language.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, he said he carried those in war. He knows exactly what he's saying. He said it multiple times. So it wasn't a slip of the tongue or anything like that. He said those things. Now, you could say, I carried a weapon of war. I used a weapon of war. I used a weapon of war multiple times, but I never carried one in a war zone. And if I said it, I'd be very ashamed and immediately backtrack on it. You know, my service is interesting because, to me at least, I served in a thing called Cobra Gold 99. They sent us to Thailand. While we were there, the bombing of Kosovo, I believe, in Bosnia and all that was going on. And they channeled some of the communications through what we were doing in Thailand. It's worldwide, satellites, all this other stuff. For me to say I supported that is a joke. It's literally a joke I've made in a bar to people who have been in Iraq.
Right.
You know, oh, yeah, well, I was in Kosovo. Oh, what did you do? I sat in Thailand in a hotel and watched other soldiers buy whores. That's what I did. I mean, that's what I did. To pretend that I actually did anything would be laughable. And this guy is overinflating his performance and his job in order to give him authority, and that's wrong. It's really wrong.
Well, the Harris Walz ticket, they're hiding behind this idea that he had decided to retire, he had decided to run for Congress before such time as his unit was deployed, and the timing there, they're going to make some real nuanced argument that he decided to leave prior to deployment. But I've heard from individuals in those types of situations that indicated that you get notice way before the announcement is made that you're actually getting deployed. Is that correct?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And there is no question here that he could have, if he was a leader and cared about his soldiers, he could very clearly have said, okay, I'm going to stay in the field. I'm going to do what I need to do. He could have run from Congress from over there. There have been people that have done that. There have been members of Congress that have served. I mean, this is just a false narrative. If he's trying to sell that, good luck. I mean, look, it's a misunderstanding. Come on. They fabricated an entire smear out of thin air that George W. Bush didn't fulfill his obligation. It was a complete lie. And when it got caught, they said, it was fake, but accurate. And now then there was John Kerry, and they say, he's swift boats. Well, they were right. Those guys were right about John Kerry in that situation, and the media downplayed that. And now here they are downplaying it again. And I'm telling you, this is not the way the media should be covering this. They should be forcing this guy on the record, make him eat it. And the simplest thing you say to him is you say, Governor Walz, what are the 7 core Army values? And they're leadership, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. And then you say, which of these are you failing on here? And the answer is all 7.
Wow.
He failed in all 7 of those 7 core Army values. And you make him eat it.
So you understand the political side of this as well as anybody. And I know it's a story. I know it's a story that has more legs than Harris or Walz want to believe when you've got Van Jones on hashtag Never CNN saying, oh, they got to clean it up. They've got to clean this up. That's Van Jones' way of saying to Harris and Walz, you better clean this up because this is going to hurt you and I can't protect you for very much longer. How do they clean it up?
I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing what happens is he goes and acknowledges that his words have been imprecise and he should have been more clear. And then they try to drop it. And they say, well, he's handled it. He's dealt with it. That's the way it is. And, you know, yes, Van Jones is pushing on this. Van Jones didn't like this choice anyway. The only reason they didn't push Josh Shapiro is because he's a Jew. That's the truth. That's what Van Jones made very clear. And right now on CNN, even after saying all that, their main story is about how Donald Trump keeps saying she should do an interview. She should do an interview. That's the main story right now. And not the fact that this rollout, as bad as they wanted to pretend the rollout with J.D. Vance was, look at this disaster. This guy, and just to speak on the guy's character for a minute, because he has none, every major position he or Kamala Harris holds, they're trying to downplay. Whether it's immigration, whether it's crime, whether it is COVID-19, whatever it is, they're
tampons in the boys' room.
They know they tell you the truth.
Yeah. Well, that's right. I mean, yeah, they are attempting to do with Walz, and I think that's why the Harris people, Eric Holder and the like, were so comfortable selecting such a socialist, because they felt like he would get the same type of mainstream media treatment. And understand, and you know this as well as anybody, Dale, they're not looking to turn Dale's vote or Matt Murphy's vote or any of your vote. They are looking to draw out stupid people to go to the polls and vote for them, misrepresenting their record on the way. They're trying to downplay the possible Trump supporters, and they're trying to get turnout from the dunderheads that get their information from ABC, CBS, or CNN, right?
Exactly.
I mean, and so the question then is, how does this specific information about Walz? Because you and I agree, Dale, that there's zero chance they replace the guy, right?
No, that's an admission of defeat. There was no chance they were going to get rid of J.D. Vance, and there's no chance they're going to get rid of him either.
So how does this affect the outcome of does this affect anyone's vote long term? Oh,
it's absolutely huge. And you mentioned it. It's not about us, not the people listening to the show. You mentioned dunderheads and idiots. My mom. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but she tells me all the time, I just love David Muir. He's so great. I don't listen to your show, but I love David Muir.
By the way, I met your mom. That's a spot on Dale's mom impersonation.
She tells me, and I love my mom. You know that.
I know.
But she loves David Muir, and she's watching that every day at 5:30. And their coverage is, they're really giving Tim Walz a hard time. He was quitting anyway. This isn't a big deal. J.D. Vance didn't even see combat. Why is he doing this? That's how they're framing it, and that's what they're going to consume. And you know, there's so many people that watch that ABC, CBS, NBC nightly news, and it is truly election interference the way they gatekeep on stories, and this is one that they're actually gatekeeping on big time.
Well, invest in 30-foot ladders, Dale, and just in case Walz and Harris actually get the presidency. Look, you know how much I appreciate you. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for offering us your perspective based on your experience, and thank you for allowing me back in Alabama once a week. I do appreciate it, believe it or not.
Go Gators.
Oh, gross. I mean, why would you end it? Get him out of here. Just get him out of here. Why would you end it? Thank you for having my back, pal. There's Dale Jackson of WVNN of Talk 99.5 in Birmingham. There's another one, 1440 AM in Montgomery. He's all throughout the state of Alabama, and we appreciate him today.